Who would you rather build the New York Mets around? Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani? We'll discuss on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. Also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Well, we finally get to the much-awaited Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani episode. Which player is the better fit for the Mets to build around long-term? This is a layered conversation, so we're going to have to really dive deep into all aspects of this, and I understand. This is a lot of dreaming because there's every chance that Juan Soto signs an extension with the Padres and Shohei Ohtani signs a free agent deal with the Dodgers, and the Mets get neither of these guys. But if you're looking at the potential franchise-altering talents that are available over the next 24 months, these are the two guys. So here we are in October. The Mets aren't playing baseball. This is the time to talk about it. We're going to have to look at the entire two-way element of Ohtani, but I want to do that later. I want to focus simply on these two guys as hitters, okay? Because, hey, Juan Soto doesn't do much defensively for you either. So let's just focus squarely on the bats. They both came into Major League Baseball in 2018. Juan Soto has played 779 games. Shohei Ohtani, as a hitter, has played 716 games, so not too far off there. Soto, a 284 hitter. Ohtani, 274. Soto has gotten on base at a 421 clip. Ohtani, 366. Soto has slugged at a 524 clip. Ohtani 556 because he's hit 171 home runs in less games. Soto 160. So right there you see the two profiles, right? Juan Soto gets on base better than anyone in baseball. Shohei Ohtani has more power than Juan Soto. Weighted runs created plus measures hitters based on a league average of 100. Since Juan Soto has been in Major League Baseball, his career WRC plus is 155. Shohei Ohtani's is 146. That means that Soto has been 55% better than your league average hitter and 9% better than Ohtani. He walks a little bit more, 19% walk rate for his career. Strikeout rate, 17.1%. Ohtani walks 12.2% of the time, good for almost anyone outside of someone as insane as Soto. And he strikes out 26.3% of the time, strikes out a little more. Now, you look at their WAR, right? Wins above replacement, simply as a hitter. Because if you combine the two, Ohtani has the edge. But as a hitter, Juan Soto has a 28.4 FWAR, Ohtani 19.9. Now, I then wanted to take this sample size and look at the last three seasons. What have we seen lately? The last three seasons, Ohtani and Soto have been hitting pretty much identical in the batting average department. 276 for Soto, 277 for Ohtani. On base percentage, Soto has it again, 425 compared to Ohtani at 379. Slug, Ohtani by a wide margin, 585 to Soto at 502. WRC plus, very interesting. For Soto's career, it's at 155. The last 3 years, it's 155. OPS 927. You look at Ohtani, been slightly better in WRC plus 157 and been kind of significantly better in OPS at 964. Second best to only Aaron Judge. If you're not aware what OPS is, that's on base plus slugging. The discrepancy between their slugging percentages is greater than the discrepancy between their on base percentage. That's why Ohtani has technically been the better hitter over the last 3 years. And the big one is the home runs again. Ohtani 124 over the last 3 seasons, Soto 91. You look at the WAR though, again, Soto has the edge because WAR really values getting on base. His WAR has been 16.4, Ohtani's 15.5. Now, this past season, Ohtani was the best hitter in baseball. He had a 180 WRC plus. That was the best mark in the game. 80% better than your league average hitter. He had an OPS of 1.066, also MLB best. He put up an FWAR of 6.6 in 135 games. Meanwhile, Soto played every game and put up an FWAR of 5.5. Still a great season, but not on Ohtani's level. Okay, his WRC plus this year, again, 155. 930 OPS, 35 home runs. So trying to compare these two is really tough. Here's what I would say. Shohei Ohtani's best year before this season was 2021, a year where he hit 46 home runs and won the MVP. That season, his FWAR as a hitter was 5.1. Juan Soto in that same season got on base at a 465 clip and put up an FWAR of 7. So he was a 7-win player as a hitter. Ohtani, 5-win player. Ohtani has the higher offensive ceiling. We saw it this year. He could be the best hitter in baseball. This year, he was that. Juan Soto has the higher floor. He's going to get on base at a 400 clip every single season. That's something that you can just, go to the bank with, and he's going to be durable too. So the question is the long-term fit. Ohtani, there's the two-way element. When is he going to pitch again? How much does that add value to the contract? Is it worth the extra you're going to have to pay for him? And then defensively, do you want these guys in the field? I mean, obviously, with Ohtani, it's him pitching. But does Soto's value as a left fielder give you something more? I just want to look at the long-term fit of both of them. And then in the final segment, we'll get into the contracts. But we'll talk about fit next. Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever been in the situation where you want to go to the game, but finding tickets is so stressful, you just decide not to go? Gametime is a fast and easy way to get tickets to all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. So you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have at the game or at the concert, at the comedy show. The Gametime guarantee means you're always going to find the best price. You find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seats before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. You can snag tickets without the stress with Gametime by downloading the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So who fits the Mets roster better? Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani? Ohtani, if you're just looking at the lineup, is going to be a DH, right? So plug him into that spot. What's your lineup look like next year? Brandon Nimmo in center. Starling Marte, I guess, in right. Left fields, is it going to be Jeff McNeil maybe? Third base, Brett Beatty. Shortstop, Lindor. Ryan Mauricio at second to start the year, with Luis Angel Acuna and Jet Williams coming up the pipeline. Pete Alonso at first base. Francisco Alvarez behind the dish. It all fits together really nicely, right? If you put Soto into the equation, he could plug right into DH. And I think defensively, probably your best team to not have Soto out in the field, but also, maybe offensively, you want Mark Vientos' bat in the lineup along with Pete Alonso. Let's say Vientos, who showed a lot in September, proves to be the best bat of the bunch in spring training and earns opportunities. Well, okay, you could put Juan Soto in left. Let's just say Starling Marte isn't available next year. It's not healthy. Juan Soto on left, Jeff McNeil on right. You have more flexibility. There's more things you could do with Juan Soto on your team than with Shohei Ohtani long-term defensively, for just simply looking at them with that one dimension. If we're not talking about the pitching, we're just looking at, where you're going to play. You could play Soto in left. Technically, you could play him in right. He's been bad, though. Okay, that's one thing we have to make clear. Juan Soto is not a good defensive outfielder, even though he was a finalist for Gold Glove last year, which is absolutely absurd. For his career, he's been minus 15 defensive runs saved, minus 19 outs above average, has never registered a positive defensive season. But he's durable and he plays. Okay, so he's going to be out there every day, and you can stick him in a corner, ideally left field. if Pete Alonso were to leave in free agency, I could see Juan Soto becoming a first baseman. Now, how is he going to handle that transition? Bryce Harper has handled it great this year. Bryce Harper's a better athlete than Juan Soto. Long term, Juan Soto is probably a DH, which is why defensively, it really doesn't matter too much here with these guys. Now, the funny thing is, if you just told me that you could pay them the same thing and Ohtani never pitches again, or even pay them the same thing, just scratch that. Ohtani never pitches again, and he's going to just come back from Tommy John and be a right fielder. I almost like Shohei Ohtani more, as much as the two-way stuff is incredible. If I can go to the bank with Shohei Ohtani being an unbelievable right fielder for a decade, I feel like he might provide more value to a ball club day in, day out. I honestly think because what I'm judging that on is the fact that this guy athletically, if you look at his speed, his arm, everything else, once he comes back, you put him in right field, the injury risk subsides considerably than having a pitch, and he just focuses on hitting. And I'm telling you, this guy would be a remarkable right fielder. But he still wants to pitch. He doesn't want to go play right field, which is funny because you can go back and watch my Shohei Ohtani Babe Ruth episode where I compared the Yankees getting Ruth to what Ohtani can mean to the New York Mets. And that was the thing, right? Ruth moved out to right, didn't pitch anymore. Now, different time, different player, different thing. But if this whole prophecy that I outlined in that episode came true, I envision Ohtani and right. Again, that's not going to happen, though. So then you have to get around to the conversation of him pitching, right? When's he going to pitch again? He's expected to hit in 2024, but we saw Bryce Harper this year. Now Ohtani, we don't even know if he got Tommy John. They've been pretty ambiguous about what surgery he got, but whatever surgery it was, it happened before Harper got his this past offseason. But it took Harper a while to get back, and his return was the exception to the rule. So they say he's going to be ready to hit next year, but you really don't know for sure. And he's definitely not pitching in 2024. And they say he's going to pitch in 2025, but sometimes that surgery, if he did get Tommy John, could last longer than that. And so you really don't know. So Shohei Ohtani the last 3 years finally got healthy. He came up 2018, made 10 starts, needed Tommy John, didn't pitch in 2019, pitched not even 2 full innings in 2020. Weird season, but still didn't get on the mound. Last 3 years, right? He's been healthy and able to contribute in a rotation. He made 74 starts, pitched to a 2.84 ERA. Remarkable stuff. 428 in the third innings pitched. 3 seasons. Now, in the 3 years prior to that, his first 3 years in the big leagues, he pitched a little over 50 innings. There's no guarantee you're going to get him until 2026. Let's say it's a 10-year contract, and it might be longer. It might be a 12-year deal, but let's just say 10 years for the sake of the argument. How many years do you get a healthy Ohtani on the mound? Is 6 a lot to say? Because, again, he might miss 2 on the front end. So then you're saying, are you going to get 6 of the last 8 years of that contract where he's going to be healthy? Maybe. But to me, I think it's the most optimistic scenario to say Shohei Ohtani over a 10-year deal, maybe he makes 150 starts, right? That's if you multiply what he did the last 3 years, times that by 2, that'd be 148 starts over 6 years of pitching if you got 6 years of pitching out of Ohtani on that contract. So when you look at the deal, the dollar amount's going to be massive here because how much more do you have to pay him than a Juan Soto to get him on your team? Because offensively, as great as Ohtani is, and the fact that he was clearly the best hitter in baseball this year, over their careers, Juan Soto has been better. The peaks might not be as high, but the valleys have not been as low. And because he doesn't pitch, guess what? You can count on Juan Soto being in your lineup as a hitter more frequently than you could Ohtani. So that risk is the thing. The reward could be unbelievable, but there's risk there. And would you be better off paying Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Juan Soto this offseason instead of just paying, Shohei Ohtani? And there's a trade that would have to happen to get Soto, and you have to get him to extend before he hit free agency, which is another question mark. You'd have to make sure through some back channeling that there was a price that could be met that could get him to sign. A lot of those questions have to be answered, but we're going to get into that math in a minute here. It's a really tough decision you would have to make, whether you would go for the absolute highest upside outcome possible. There is not a player that plays the game of baseball that is more exciting, more of a game changer, more of a once in a lifetime talent than Shohei Ohtani. There's not a lot of guys who are as good and consistent as Juan Soto. So that's what I want to go through next. What would it cost to get these guys, both the trade and financially? And what's more worth it to go all in on? So we'll get to that next. But first, another word from our sponsors. Who should Steve Cohen pay if he gets the opportunity to? One or the other, Ohtani or Soto. What do these contracts look like? It is really uncertain because Ohtani has this major question mark with the injury. How much money would Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, make going into this offseason? A guy that is, again, we don't know what the surgery is, but theoretically, even though they won't tell us, it seems like he just went under the knife for another Tommy John, his second. What does that guy get paid? I mean, a guy who won't pitch next year. That's where there's this massive risk. And I get that he's still going to get paid, and rightfully so. No one's ever done what he just did for 3 years. No one. Not Babe Ruth. He did not play two ways that way. He was not going out and penciled into the lineup every day as a hitter while pitching every sixth day or whatever it was. So let's just say baseline, lowest possible average annual value. He's getting $50 million a season. Is that crazy? I don't think so. I feel like someone might meet that price. The Dodgers have been setting themselves up to be in this race for Shohei Ohtani, and he's in a free agent class that has no one else anywhere close to his caliber as far as just being a hitter alone, not even putting the pitching element into this thing. And last year, Aaron Judge as a hitter got $40 million a season. So is it a leap to say that the difference in value from just adding a potential that he could be the ace of your team in 2025, that's worth $10 million extra than what Aaron Judge got? Of course not. There's a chance he makes even more than that. But we're going to say low end, $50 million per season. Let's just say it's a 10-year deal. So just for simple round numbers, $500 million for Shohei Ohtani on a 10-year deal. Juan Soto turned down a 15-year, $440 million extension with the Nationals. At least that's what's been reported before he got traded and everything else. That had an average annual value a little bit more than $29 million per season. Now, again, I just mentioned Judge. $360 million over 9 years, $40 million per. Mike Trout's making over 37. Corey Seager, 35.5. Lindor, 34.1. I imagine he's going to want $35 million per season. The question is, how many seasons? He might want 40. But if he gets a deal that's longer than a decade, he might have to come back down to earth a little bit at $35 million per. Let's say it's a 13-year extension. That would be $455 million. Not far off from that $500 million we were just talking about on Ohtani. Now, if that doesn't include the final year of arbitration, it becomes basically a 14-year deal, and he's going to make at least $30 million, probably more than that. He's going to be, within spitting distance of 490 over a 14-year deal, so to speak. Now, let's just say you throw the arbitration into the contract extension, put it all together for a 15-year deal that'll pay him from ages 25 to age 39, because he turns 25 later this month. That would be the same length of time as you would be paying Ohtani as far as the back end of the deal. He's just 5 years younger. So let's just say it's a 15-year deal, $35 million per. That'd be $525 million a season. Now, to give him a 15-year deal, maybe you don't have to give him $35 million per. So let's just make it really simple, super round numbers. $500 million, 15 years, that's $33.33 million a season. Shohei Ohtani, we said $500 million, 10 years. So then now we got everything round and simple. It just makes the math so easy for us to digest. What would you prefer? 15 years of 15 years of Juan Soto for $500 million, or 10 years of Shohei Ohtani for $500 million? Let's make that the question. You get an extra 5 years of Soto, but you get the pitching element. What's worth more? Now, remember, the back end of that contract for Soto might not look good, but how do we know what the back end of the contract for Ohtani is going to look like when he's in his late 30s? This guy's a once-in-a-generation athlete. Maybe he'll be great, but you don't know. If at the back end of that contract, it looks bad for both of them. Let's say the last 3 years are bad for both of them. But you got 12 good years of Juan Soto before that, or 7 good years of Ohtani. How much winning did you do in those 7 years of Ohtani? To where the back end, you might pay him $150 million per season. The back end of the deal, where he might not even be pitching anymore. The risk is so great on Shohei Ohtani that I really start to talk myself into Juan Soto as the ideal target this offseason. If they can't come to terms on an extension with San Diego, you trade for him and you extend him yourself. Now, again, you have to make sure that you can get that deal done, but I feel like it's very similar to where the Mets were able to trade for Lindor and get that deal done. And that's an interesting comp to me, and probably a full episode I want to go into at some point. The comparison of Lindor and Soto, because you know what you've gotten from Francisco Lindor in the 3 years he's been the Mets starting shortstop? You've gotten the best shortstop in baseball. You've gotten consistency. You've gotten durability. You've gotten a guy that goes out there and produces. I think with Juan Soto, it's the same thing. He's going to be on the field. He's going to be getting on base at a 400 clip. Some seasons, he might hit 20 home runs. Not ideal, but he might still get on base at a 415 clip. He just didn't have the power that year. Some seasons, he might hit 40 bombs and be the MVP. There's a consistency element. Now, here's the other wrinkle, though. You have to trade for him. You don't have to trade for Ohtani. So how much is the trade worth to you? Well, I'll try to do my best to find a dollar amount to put on a trade. So here's what I did. I looked at Luis Angel Acuna, because I really think if you put Acuna on the table, 1 year of Soto for Acuna, you might have to add some more to it, but not too much. Acuna would really move the needle for a team like the Padres, who could get a player that they can know defensively. They can pretty much plug him anywhere. He has the athleticism to go into center field if they want him to do that, play second base. He could be their shortstop theoretically as well. They have a lot of options. Guy who carries some name recognition to appease a fan base that is going to understand that that would be a cost-cutting move. Okay, so that's the headliner, right? The Mets ate $34 million on Max Scherzer, around there. It was $20 million, well, 20 and change next year, and I think there was like $14 million dead this season. Maybe it was $35 million. So you can round it off to that, $35 million. If you put that dollar amount on a prospect like Acuna. So, all right, but then again, how much more are you paying per season? That's comparing Ohtani to Soto, couple of years of how much more he's going to make, and it kind of levels out. So I think the prospect capital ultimately would be worth it to get a guy of Soto's talent, to get your foot in the door there. And then again, it just comes down to the full long-term investment. And if you're going to have to pay Shohei Ohtani $50 million per season for a massive question mark on whether or not he's going to pitch again, how effective he's going to be, and how often you're going to have him, as opposed to a guy in Juan Soto who he's going to be there, he's going to get on base, he can perform in the biggest moments because he did it when he was 19. Was he 19 or 20 that year? I think it was 19, right? World Series year. To me, it actually makes all the sense in the world to go all in on Juan Soto this offseason, especially because I feel like Ohtani's a Dodger anyway. I really do. So we'll see. Am I going to be upset at the Mets sign Shohei Ohtani? Of course not. That'd be unbelievable. You're talking about two remarkable outcomes either way. Because, hey, Mets fans, it's not your money, not my money, Steve Cohen's money. If he wants to invest everything in Shohei Ohtani, bring him to town with all of the other implications, because if you look at as far as a business move, like Ohtani is the best business move that can be made in baseball, because he opens up an entire other world, as far as a whole other continent that'll be paying attention to Mets baseball, because everyone is going to be watching Shohei Ohtani around the world. It feels like this guy is the only player in Major League Baseball that is a global sensation. No one else is like him. So if you look at the business element, all that stuff, yeah, the scales might just tip over to Ohtani. But if you're simply looking at what's the best investment for the New York Mets baseball team to win games and put together a team year over year that can be consistent, I think it's probably to go after Soto and then find the pitcher you want this offseason and not worry about putting all your eggs into one basket on a guy that can do both. Because as great as that is, 6 years with the Angels, what did it do? Not blaming him for it, but I'll tell you what, that question mark about how often he's going to pitch, and again, that nightmare scenario I painted where you're paying for age 37 through 39 of a Shohei Ohtani that just can't physically pitch anymore, if that becomes the reality and he's making that much money at the back end of a deal, you're going to be regretting it, I think. So again, never know. But if you weigh risk and reward, to me, I think Juan Soto is the player that makes the most sense for the New York Mets to build their franchise around. Franchise built around Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. I think that is the stability that Steve Cohen has been looking for. So that's something that we have to explore in another episode down the line, the Soto Lindor comp. I think there's something to that. I will do that for all of you everyday listeners, but that's going to be all for today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. Please join our subtext, a new layer of the coverage I'm giving you with Locked On Mets here. You can join the subtext. The link is in the description. It's a way that you can text me, you can ask me questions, and you can get text updates from me where I'll share some Mets information, talk about what I'm going to be discussing on the show, give you my opinion on certain things that I might not be sharing on the podcast. So check that out. It's a 2-week free trial, then $4.99 a month. Follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. And we'll be back for another episode tomorrow.